Hey folks, happy Halloween! Today we're gonna get spooky. And what could be spookier than revisiting comment section controversy about the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack? Ooh, spooky! To catch you up to speed, I put out a video called Why Do Some People Hate Billy Strings? And in that video, I hypothesized that whenever there's a big mainstream event that brings a bunch of new people to bluegrass, the pre-existing scene rarely embraces the new audience or the event that brought them in. My theory is that this is due to a conversation about authenticity in the music or the act. Conversations about authenticity can sometimes be mistaken for jealousy or elitism, so before you jump on me for being elitist about bluegrass, just hear me out. In the video I mentioned before, I brought up the soundtrack for the film Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and that started some conversation in the comments.
Wait a minute. Who elected you leader of this outfit?
Well, Pete, I figured it should be the one with the capacity for abstract thought.
So let's continue that conversation, but let's tackle the core point. Is the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack authentically bluegrass enough to be called a bluegrass record? But in honor of Halloween, let's do this thing in style. So I'm gonna dress up like a hot dog and give you the history for every single song on the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack, and then I'm gonna give you some commentary so we can see if it really is a bluegrass record. Spoilers, it's not. The only thing that I ask that you keep in mind is that bluegrass is a relatively modern folk genre. It comes out of the 1940s, and it's named after the group Bill Monroe and his Bluegrass Boys. Oh, that's it. That's the look I remember. Though some of the standard repertoire in bluegrass music is from pre-1940, the playstyles and arrangements of bluegrass are mostly a product of that time. So with the film Oh Brother Where Art Thou taking place in 1937, we really shouldn't expect to see any bluegrass songs, because bluegrass hadn't been invented yet. Also, a quick thank you to my buddy Chris, who did all of the research for this video. I'll be reading from his notes and then giving my own personal commentary. Let's go. Poe Lazarus, performed by James Carter and the Prisoners. The song Poe Lazarus is a bad man ballad or a prison work song. The band leader, James Carter, born 1925, was a musician who as a young man ended up in prison several times. In 1959, while serving time in Mississippi State Penitentiary, James Carter and the Prisoners were recorded by ethnomusicologist and folk song expert Alan Lomax. In the recording, you can hear the Prisoners chopping wood in time while they sing.
I bring him dead alive. Lord, Lord, bring him dead alive.
So right away we can tell this isn't a bluegrass tune. This is more of a work song or a field holler. Not that work songs or field hollers haven't become standard bluegrass repertoire, but this one certainly has not. It was recorded after 1940 though, but not every piece of folk music recorded post 1940 is bluegrass. In the Down from the Mountain concert DVD, they have the Fairfield Four perform this number. I believe they're also on the soundtrack, but they are also not a bluegrass act. They're like a cappella gospel group, so not bluegrass.
Oh, well, the high shirt, he told the deputy.
Big Rock Candy Mountain, performed by Harry McClintock. The song Big Rock Candy Mountain is a tongue-in-cheek spiritual about hobo heaven. As a young man, Harry McClintock ran away from home to join the circus and rambled around the world. He worked as a railroad man in Africa, the Philippines, and the USA. After getting married and settling down in 1925, he participated in a radio talent contest where his performance of Big Rock Candy Mountain won him spots on several radio shows. In 1939, his song reached #1 on Billboard's Hillbilly Hits. Although this song's popularity can clearly be accredited to McClintock, it has no single known author.
On the birds and the bees and the cigarette trees, the lemonade springs where the bluebird sings in the Big Rock Candy Mountains.
So this song is definitely pre-bluegrass. I mean, it sounds like it's from the golden age of radio. It sounds like it's from the birth of the music industry. This is a novelty song that they can sell to a ton of people and make a ton of money. For sure, bluegrass bands have covered this, but that doesn't inherently make it like a bluegrass song. I could do a reggae cover of Don't Stop Believin', and that doesn't mean that Don't Stop Believin' is now a reggae song. So yeah, this is not a bluegrass song. It's not a bluegrass recording either.
In the Big Rock Candy Mountains, all the cops have wooden legs, and the bulldogs all have rubber teeth.
You Are My Sunshine, performed by Norman Blake. The song You Are My Sunshine is generally attributed to Jimmy Davis, the country singer who at one point served as governor of Louisiana. The performer, Norman Blake, is a bluegrass and folk hero. Chris says, if you don't know who he is, we're gonna send you to Jake Eddy's re-education camp.
Sunshine away.
So I know some of the history of this tune from off the top of my head. I believe it was first recorded in 1939 or 1940 by the Pine Ridge Boys, and their recording features some like yodeling in a very Western way, not in a bluegrass way. The other night, dear. So ultimately, I think this first recording shares more in common with like brother duets than anything else. However, this recording is by Norman Blake, and Norman Blake is a renowned bluegrass guitarist, right? He's known in the industry. In fact, last year, 2022, I think he got inducted into the IBMA Hall of Fame. So Norman Blake is bluegrass. And his recording here is faithful to bluegrass. It's got bluegrass instrumentation, bluegrass groove, the play style, it features instrumental solos, all bluegrass stuff. So this is a bluegrass interpretation of a slightly earlier piece of music. So yes, this is bluegrass.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
Down to the River to Pray, performed by Alison Krauss. The song Down to the River to Pray is an African-American hymn. The earliest known version of this hymn appears under the title The Good Old Way, published in Slave Songs of the United States in 1867. Alison Krauss is one of the most influential bluegrass artists of all time, as a solo artist and with her bluegrass supergroup Alison Krauss in Union Station. She boasts an incredible 27 Grammy Awards and has done more to bring bluegrass to modern audiences than arguably any other artist.
Go down, down in the river to pray.
This is maybe a fun one that could spark some debate. Obviously, this tune is way older than bluegrass, but Alison Krauss is a bluegrass artist. But is she performing the tune using like authentic bluegrass convention? That's the question. And I would say no. Choirs aren't really a bluegrass thing. If bluegrass musicians perform a cappella, it's normally in smaller groups, like groups of 4 or so. For instance, Doc Watson, who is not strictly speaking a bluegrass artist, but did bring this song to the bluegrass realm, how does he perform it?
Good Lord, show me the way. Come on, fathers, and let's go down. Come on down, don't you want to go down? Come on, fathers, and let's go down, down in the valley to pray.
Listen, it's still a cappella, but it's a small group, it's not a choir, and this feels more like bluegrass to me. Whereas I guess Alison's performance feels like a church, like a gospel performance, so not bluegrass.
Come on, brothers, let's go down, down in the river to pray.
I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow, performed by Dan Tyminski on guitar and vocals. The song I'm a Man of Constant Sorrow is an American tradition, first recorded under its current title by Emory Arthur, a West Virginian folk artist in 1928. The song was likely popularized by the Stanley Brothers in 1951, which is when it appears with the chord progression and high lonesome sound it's known for these days. Dan Tyminski, born in 1967, first receiving notoriety as a member of Alison Krauss and Union Station, is a bluegrass legend, boasting 14 Grammy wins. In this version of the song, he famously uses open G tuning, that's D, G, D, G, B, D, giving it a folky blues feel to go along with the classic high lonesome vocals.
Here on earth I found.
This is another interesting one, and I think Chris did a great job of laying out that history. So the song is from 1928, but the chord changes, and I know a lot of the melody is from the Stanley Brothers in 1951. On top of that, Dan Tyminski's vocal has a lot of these like modern bluegrass flourishes. The guitar playing is in that big open tuning with all those little bluesy fills. So it's like, I guess you could take that vocal out and just track a bluegrass band under it, and that would be a bluegrass recording. But as it stands, that guitar playing really has nothing to do with bluegrass tradition. This is coming from a full-time bluegrass guitarist. You can trust me. And I think their intention was to evoke this kind of like pre-war blues sound, this like pre-1939 blues sound, because a lot of those guitarists played in like open E or open D. And the performance, by the way, isn't like authentically pre-war blues or anything, but the tuning kind of is. And that's explained in the film by the guitarist who's playing being like a blues man too. So that all tracks, that makes sense. That's how he would have his guitar tuned, kind of. So I guess what I'm saying is that the song works great for the film, but if we put on our musicology hats for a second, it really kind of doesn't make any sense. Basically, everything is anachronistic except for the lyrics to the song and the tuning of the guitar. This is just a big melting pot of a bunch of different traditions that will feel vaguely authentic to an everyday audience, but it's not authentic to a time or any historical moment, really. It's just kind of Hollywood. And even though Dan Tyminski is a great bluegrass musician and vocalist, the sound they're trying to evoke here isn't bluegrass. They're not even aiming for bluegrass. It's not like they missed. They're intentionally doing something different for the film. So the Stanley Brothers version, yes, it's bluegrass. This version is not, and it's not supposed to be.
Maybe your friends think I'm just a stranger. My face you never see.
Hard Time Killing Floor Blues. Performed by Chris Thomas King, the song Hard Time Killing Floor Blues is a haunting blues classic written by Mississippi Delta blues legend Skip James, who wrote the song in 1931. His recordings had a profound impact on the development of blues. Chris Thomas King's incredible version emulates Skip James' haunting falsetto singing and intricate Delta blues fingerstyle playing. Chris Thomas King is an actor and musician who actually plays the fictional blues guitarist Tommy Johnson in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
It's killing flow. I'll never get down slow.
I think the history of this one explains the origin and interpretation plenty. This isn't a bluegrass tune. It's, once again, that kind of pre-war blues sound. It's recorded by a modern blues artist. It's not bluegrass.
It's killing flow. I'll never get down slow.
I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow. We already did this one. Okay, so there's like 12 versions of Man of Constant Sorrow on the soundtrack. I'm not doing the history every single time. I will quickly say that this is an instrumental version recorded by Norman Blake. Of course, Norman Blake is the real deal, and this sounds like solo bluegrass guitar, so this one is a win. This sounds like bluegrass. Keep on the Sunny Side, performed by the Whites. The song Keep on the Sunny Side was written by composer Ada Blenkhorn in 1928, who wrote it for a wheelchair-bound relative who always wanted his wheelchair to be pushed on the sunny side of the street. The song was then popularized by A.P. Carter and recorded several times by different members of the Carter family. The song became the Carter family's theme song on the radio for a time, and A.P. Carter even has a gold record of the song embedded on his tombstone. The performers, the Whites, are a family band comprised of Buck White and his two daughters, Sharon and Cheryl. They played bluegrass and country music. They're known for tight harmonies characteristic of family bands. They had a long career that culminated in the year 2000 when they did this recording specifically for the soundtrack of the movie.
Sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life.
Yeah, I mean, this recording sounds like bluegrass to me. It's kind of a bluegrass band. The harmonies, the boom chuck, the mandolin kick, the dobro solo, they all feel like bluegrass. But it also feels like they're trying to evoke this like early radio pre-bluegrass sound. Like it's got a hint of it. I don't know, there's something almost like brother duet, or I guess like sister duet built into this recording. Maybe it's how straight the melody is and like the mandolin break or something. We're nitpicking, right? This is bluegrass.
It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way. If we'll keep on the sunny side of life.
I'll Fly Away, performed by Gillian Welch and Alison Krauss. The song I'll Fly Away is a classic gospel tune written by renowned gospel composer Albert E. Brumley. Brumley has an incredible track record, having written songs that would later become bluegrass hits like Turn Your Radio On, recorded by John Hartford, and Rank Stranger to Me, recorded by the Stanley Brothers. Gillian Welch is one of the most influential singer-songwriters in history. Here, Gillian and Alison give an incredible rendition of the song, featuring sister harmonies throughout the whole song, almost reminiscent of what a Skaggs and Rice or Stanley Brothers version of the song would sound like.
I'll fly away. I'll fly away.
So yeah, I can feel a chop in the mandolin. I got boom chuck on the guitar. I think Chris's history was also spot on. I mean, this is right on the money. Yeah, it's got a Skaggs and Rice vibe, for sure. The mandolin solos are also pretty improvisational, and they're not that straight melody, which feels like it's less sister duet aka pre-bluegrass, and it's more like bluegrass. This song is also from 1920, if I remember correctly, but it's become such a standard in bluegrass jams. I mean, it just is a bluegrass tune. It's become a standard and been adopted for sure. So yeah, of course, this one is bluegrass too.
I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away in the morning.
Ah, Lordy, it is hot in there. Let me tell you, getting kind of hot in these hot dogs. Yeah, welcome to intermission time. Did you know that there was a big controversy with this album because it won like Album of the Year at the Grammys, and Outkast was also up for that award with their album Stank Anya, which I love that I get to bring that up on the channel. But yeah, I don't know where that controversy landed. I just remember it from the time, so I'm bringing it up. Ultimately, I feel like the win stands the test of time. I mean, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou like reinvigorated interest in a lot of dead musical genres for like a decade. And I'm not saying that the Outkast album is forgotten. I mean, certainly by bluegrass fans, it's probably been forgotten. But I'm not sure it had the same lasting impact. And I think Outkast won the year after that anyway, so you still got the award, just for a different album, I think. Anyway, Didn't Leave Nobody But the Baby. Performed by Gillian Welch, Alison Krauss, and Emmylou Harris, the song Didn't Leave Nobody But the Baby is an African-American spiritual that, like many songs predating recorded music, does not have a single identifiable writer. It is very hard to find older recordings of this song. It seems that this version from the soundtrack is the only official recording available. Gillian Welch and Alison Krauss join Emmylou Harris, who is in her own right a very important figure in folk and Americana music, having won 14 Grammys.
Everybody's gone in the cotton and the corn, didn't leave nobody but the baby.
All right, Chris, I can help you with the history. This is a tough one. My ego is inflating. I'm gonna one-up the guy I paid to give me the history of all these songs. If you watch the Down from the Mountain concert DVD, Gillian Welch says that this song is a combination of a field holler and a lullaby, I think, or something like that.
A song that is based on a kind of an old lullaby, kind of a lullaby and a field holler combined.
But more importantly, she kind of infers that they wrote it.
This is one that we wrote for the movie.
That's not true. They didn't write it per se, but it's kind of historical fiction because there is an African-American folk song that has a similar refrain, and it was collected by Alan Lomax, if I remember correctly, but the melody and the lyrics are quite a bit different.
Go to sleepy little baby, for the burger man catch you. All them horses in that lot, go to sleepy little baby.
So I think the simplest way to say this is like the Man of Constant Sorrow situation. This tune just got the Hollywood treatment. They reinvented it so it would suit the scene in the film where the sirens are at the creek. If that feels dishonest to you, here's the thing. Even if they hadn't done that, this wouldn't be a bluegrass song, and it's still not a bluegrass song, and that's all we care about today. So yeah, sorry, this one's not a bluegrass tune.
Don't you weep, pretty baby. Don't you weep, pretty baby.
In the Highways, performed by the Peaceful Sisters. In the Highways is a traditional gospel song passed on through oral tradition. It is hard to say where the song came from and has likely been sung at churches for over 100 years. The Peaceful Sisters were ages 6, 9, and 12 when they began touring. This recording was made for this movie, and as a result, the sisters became famous. Although they remained relatively inactive, in 2010 they recorded a song for another Coen Brothers movie, True Grit. In 2011, they stopped performing. Oh man, I didn't know that they sang in True Grit. That's crazy. I love that movie. I wonder where they sing in that movie. This performance, when I listen to it, it makes me think of a vaudeville act. It doesn't really feel like bluegrass. It feels like a kitschy, like pageantry act, which is what it's supposed to be in the film, so good job. But in any case, it's not bluegrass. It wasn't supposed to be bluegrass in the movie. It's not supposed to be bluegrass now. What can I say? It's not bluegrass.
I'll be somewhere working, I'll be somewhere working, I'll be somewhere working for my Lord.
I Am Weary, Let Me Rest. Performed by the Cox family, the song I Am Weary, Let Me Rest is a traditional gospel tune that cannot be attributed to a single composer. This song was likely made famous in the bluegrass world by Ralph Stanley and the Clinch Mountain Boys, although it has also been recorded by Joan Baez. The Cox family's rendition of this tune demonstrates the beautiful family band harmonies that made this band successful. Comprised of Willard Cox and his daughters Sydney, Suzanne, and Evelyn, the band had their start in the 70s, leading up to this recording that was made specifically for the soundtrack. This is a bluegrass song. Bluegrass band, bluegrass performance. This one is on the mark. That's it. I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow. Chris says, John Hartford is the man, and if you don't know him, we're sending you back to Jake Eddy's re-education camp. Well, John Hartford is a bluegrass musician, and I guess this is solo bluegrass fiddle, so I will accept it, begrudgingly, because I'm getting tired of it. Oh Death, performed by the legendary Ralph Stanley. The song Oh Death is a traditional Appalachian folk song generally attributed to musician and preacher Lloyd Chandler, born 1896, though the song is likely far older than that. Doc Boggs, an old-time banjo picker, recorded an incredible version of the song in the 1960s. Ralph Stanley is widely accepted as one of the best bluegrass singers of all time. He is the absolute personification of high lonesome. This version was recorded specifically for the soundtrack and won him one of his 3 Grammy Awards.
Oh, death, someone would pray, could you wait to call me another day? My mother came to my bed, placed a cold towel upon my head.
Chris, let me tell you, you left out the best part of this story, so I'm gonna do it. So yeah, Ralph Stanley sings this song a cappella on the Oh Brother record, but Ralph and his brother Carter used to sing this song together in harmony as the Stanley Brothers.
Oh, death.
Then, Carter Stanley passed away sometime in the 60s, so it's almost like there's no one left to sing both parts. And every time I hear Ralph Stanley's solo recording, I think of the missing part, and it's almost like he's singing this tragic oh death lament about his brother. It's incredibly heavy. Ralph also passed away in 2016, so rest in peace, Ralph. All that to say, yes, this is a bluegrass track, and it's being sung by the guy that made it popular in the bluegrass world. Stamp of approval.
Whoa, death, won't you spare me over till another year?
In the Jailhouse Now, performed by the actor Tim Blake Nelson, the song In the Jailhouse Now is a classic country folk tune that has been recorded by many legendary artists like Jimmie Rodgers and Webb Pierce. It is not clear who wrote the song. The performer of this recording, actor Tim Blake Nelson, plays the character Delmar O'Donnell, one of the protagonists from the film. He has a strong theater background and likely some singing training, which would make sense because his rendition was an absolute home run.
He's in the jailhouse now.
It's good, but it's not really a bluegrass tune. The band is playing like a bluegrass band, though, which makes this a tough call. We have a mandolin chop, we got a boom chuck on the guitar, we got a dobro in there, so on and so forth. And the vocals, though, they have yodels, and they sound like early country. It's almost like if Jimmie Rodgers had a more modern bluegrass band backing him up or something, you know, that kind of sound. So I would say this is a little bit of musical fantasy again. You wouldn't find this band in 1937 when the film takes place. They don't exist. You could find something like it, but that mandolin chop would maybe be a snare drum or a guitar player doing the chop with like bar chords. I also feel like the fiddle and the dobro kind of competing for those fills, that might have been more arranged in that time period, but that's nitpicky and not even always true. If anything, this is a bluegrass cover of a country song. I'm going to go with not bluegrass just because it's kind of anachronistic. It's Hollywood fantasy again.
I had a friend named Ramblin' Bob. He used to steal, gamble, and rob. He thought he was the smartest guy around.
I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow. Again. Yeah, this is still Man of Constant Sorrow, but this is what I was talking about earlier. This is like the vocals from the recording used on screen, but this time it's got a bluegrass band backing it. This feels like bluegrass and not Hollywood fantasy. So put this one in the bluegrass pile. We're getting close to the end. I am I'm sick of being a hot dog. Okay.
And the Man of Constant Sorrow, I've seen trouble.
Indian War Whoop. Performed by John Hartford, Indian War Whoop is a classic comical John Hartford tune. It seems that every John Hartford album has to have at least a couple hilarious songs that could almost qualify as a practical joke. John Hartford is the bluegrass world's Mark Twain. This song seems to have been recorded for the soundtrack. John probably made it up on the spot. You know, this doesn't really feel like a bluegrass tune either. This feels like an old-time tune. I can tell because the other instruments aren't taking solos. It's just the fiddle playing the melody over and over again, which is like a hallmark of old-time music. One of the like advancements that made bluegrass was that we had all of these improvisational solos. That's something that Bill Monroe did to older American traditional music to turn it into bluegrass. So once again, this is more old time, not bluegrass really. Lonesome Valley, performed by the Fairfield Four. The song Lonesome Valley is a gospel tune that has likely been a part of the Southern Baptist tradition for over 100 years. The Fairfield Four is an a cappella group formed in the 1920s at Fairfield Baptist Church in Nashville. Over time, the group has had several different members. The group has won a Grammy in 1998 for their album I Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray, which likely led to them being included on this soundtrack. The Fairfield Four are part of a long tradition of African American Southern Baptist a cappella groups. I think Chris's history explains this one well enough. This is a gospel tune from a different tradition, not a bluegrass tune. Great tune, though.
You got to go to the Lonesome Valley.
Angel Band. Performed by the legendary Stanley Brothers, the song Angel Band is a classic gospel tune which lacks a single author but has been sung at churches for over 100 years. Born in Virginia in 1925 and 1927 respectively, Carter and Ralph Stanley are bluegrass personified. After Carter passed away in 1966, Ralph started his band, Ralph Stanley and the Clinch Mountain Boys, which is a must-listen for anybody interested in learning bluegrass. This recording was likely done in the 1950s and was included on the 2000 soundtrack for the movie. Oh, look at that. I said Carter passed away in the 1960s, and Chris says 1966. Steel Trap. This requires no explanation, right? This is a bluegrass standard played by a bluegrass band in a bluegrass style. Add it to the bluegrass pile.
Coming around me stand, oh, bear me.
And I think that's the last one, which means I'm probably going to get out of this hot dog costume. Ooh. By my count, that means 9 out of 19 of these tunes were bluegrass. That's 42%, so probably not a bluegrass record. More importantly, though, with the film taking place in 1937, before bluegrass was originated, that means that 9 out of the 19 songs on the soundtrack are anachronistic, either by play style or arrangement, but I guess not really by composition, because it seems like they picked all tunes that were composed in the right period. So if you ask me, I still hold the same position that I've always held. This is a very diverse record that's meant to give a broad snapshot of popular American genres of the time, rather than an attempt to showcase the single genre of bluegrass. A genre that hadn't even been invented in the time period that the film was set. But hey, that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you all later. Happy Halloween.
Way on your snow white wings to my